Hi guys, so today I'm going to talk to you about Google Forms. This isn't something that I've used in my classroom in particular. I am a kindergarten teacher, so this would be challenging to use for my kids. But I actually just used it recently with my parents since all of this craziness with the online learning has happened. I created a survey for my parents using Google Forms, so I thought it would be a good one to talk about since I had just used it recently and kind of became familiar with some of the things that it can do. So, here's the online learning survey that I made. I had a few questions. I had them put their child's name, what school they go to, because I teach at two different schools. Multiple choice, now that there's no longer assignments, would you like more materials? Here they could check everything that they wanted to. If they checked the other option, they could even type something in. Oops, sorry, I forgot I'm in the edit version. Then down here, another multiple choice, another check all that apply, check all that apply. Here is a long answer text, and then just a little note at the bottom from me. If you go up and look at the responses, you can see that I can either look at the summary of the responses, I can look at them question by question, or I can look at them as individual, each person's separate responses. So if you look at summary, it's really nice. We're going to skip their names. If you look at the summary, it's really nice because they show it in pie charts. You can see how many said yes, how many said no, how many said other. They can share, they show you the responses of other. Here they have a bar graph showing us again, this was the check all that apply. So how many said of each, another little pie graph, bar graph. Here you can see all the different responses for the short or for the long answer. Now, the reason I like this is because you can see the summary and you can see their individual responses. So again, we'll try to scoot past their names quick. And I can look at each individual child and see what works for them. So if there's maybe one child who said yes to something, I can go look at their individual response and see maybe if they gave me an answer why. When you're making this, if you go to settings, there's all these different options. You can collect people's email addresses. You can require people to sign in. You can have them either be able to edit it after they submit or not. See their summary charts and text responses. Here you can shuffle it, show progress bar, show link to submit another response. And then here you can actually, so here you can make this a quiz, which you can assign points to it, or you can choose not to assign points. Here you can make it locked mode on Chromebooks, which I actually thought was really interesting. You can have it so that they can't open other tabs or applications while taking the quiz, but it has to be like through a managed Chromebook. But I thought that was an interesting thing. They get their grade right after they submit. They can see missed questions, correct answers, point values, all that good stuff. So it has a lot of things that I didn't necessarily use. You can change the theme. You can look at like what it looks like as a preview, so you know what it's going to look like to the people who are filling it out before you actually send it out. I really liked it. I think it would be beneficial to use in the classroom as well. So when I looked at it through the three keys, so key 3 was sound design. So obviously, like I said, there were many different options when creating a question. There was multiple choice, true, false, short answer, essay, check all that apply. I think there was long and short answer. It really kind of is nice because the possibilities are endless when it comes to that. It was nice for me to make one quiz that had check all that apply, multiple choice, short answer. I didn't just have to stick to multiple choice because that wouldn't have worked for the type of form that I was having the parents fill out. It's also nice because teacher can determine how many problems you can include. It originally, I think, had 10 problems, and I was able to delete problems. I was able to add problems, and you can decide if they're graded or not. Obviously, this wasn't supposed to be graded because it wasn't going to my kids. It was going to the parents, and it was a survey. But you could have easily turned that on and changed the point value. So I think when I did it, they originally had everything set as worth 1 point. You can change that and decide if you think something should be worth more or not. When you do that, it also tells the students how much each question is worth. And bias can be avoided by the way the questions are worded and the types of questions that are included in the assessment. Typically, multiple choice questions aren't overly filled with bias, unless you have sometimes those ones where, uh, everything except, or, please select the one that is not. And I think sometimes that wording can confuse people. But sometimes short answer and essay questions can be a bit challenging because I think sometimes there can be bias involved there if there's a question that can be argued in multiple directions or interpreted in different ways. So again, I think you can avoid bias with this, but I think in a lot of tests it's hard to avoid bias, regardless of what kind of testing software or just a regular test in person that you use. In terms of formative usefulness, key four, the teacher is able to see the individual responses and the overall summary, which again, I said I loved. It's helpful for determining which questions most people mastered and which questions everyone needs help on. For me, I was trying to get a gist of what worked best for everybody, so I got on and I was able to see that Wednesday was the best day for everybody and 1 o'clock was the best time. I was able to quickly see what the majority was. I was also able to see what was not a good time for people. So instead of going through 24, individual responses, it was really nice to just be able to look at the overall summary. There also is an option to add individual feedback, which I didn't see the first time around. I just really actually realized it when I went through to do this project. You can actually write individual feedback and it goes directly to the student. That gives the student time to say, hey, oh, this is the problem I messed up on. This is exactly what I did, and they can go back and fix it. The teacher could also add a self-assessment point to it at the bottom. After either you could make it a separate form or at the very end after you answer all the questions, you could have a piece where they have to assess how they think they did, what they think they could have done better, what part they struggled on, what part they felt they were successful on. So you could incorporate the self-assessment part as well. And the last key five, effective communication. The quiz can be sent to others to inform students about, or to inform people about the student's progress or needs. There's an option to send it. You can also add people to it to be editors, or I guess that's the word. Usually with most Google things, you can do that. Students can see how they did and are able to reflect on their own learning and progress. Again, when they submit it, they can see their feedback directly. And again, you can add that specific individual feedback as well. And then again, the graphs and charts are used to gather the information and data accurately. The individual summary option allows the teacher to look at all the data as a whole and find the gaps quickly and easily. So overall, I really liked Google Forms. Again, I don't know that it's super appropriate for me in kindergarten, but for the purpose I used it for, and I think for maybe some of the older grades, I think it would be really beneficial.